Join us in empowering and amplifying voices during Brain Tumor Awareness Month in May. Pacific Neuroscience Institute provides important support programs for patients, their loved ones, and their care partners. To make a positive impact and help sustain these resources, consider supporting brain tumor awareness by visiting pacificneuro.org/donate-BTA.
Hello, I'm Akanksha Sharma. I am a neuro-oncologist and palliative care specialist at Pacific Neuroscience Institute and Providence St. John's Health Center. And today I'm very excited that Janice Armbrust is going to be talking to us about Optune. Janice, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, happy to. So I am a patient of Dr. Sharma's. I am 31 years old. I'm originally from Germany and I'm now living in Los Angeles. And I was diagnosed with glioblastoma in August of 2021. Yes, and have been on Optune since September 2021. So it's now been, around 1.5 years, even a little more than that. And yeah, happy to share all about my experiences.
Amazing. Thank you so much, firstly, for sharing and being willing to talk about this in a recorded format, because I know it's not easy to talk about these things, but I think it'll be really helpful for many of our patients who are not familiar with Optune or are nervous about it. Can you tell me why you started wearing Optune and how long you mentioned that you have been on it since September of 2021, but what made you choose this as part of your treatment regimen?
Yeah. So when I chose to go on Optune, it was part of a trial. I'm part of the Trident trial. And so it was one of the few trials that I felt confident about because it technically was already FDA approved. So I was already pretty hopeful that it was going to work anyways. And as part of this trial, I just started being on Optune as soon as possible, essentially. So concurrently with my radiation and chemotherapy start. And yeah, it just seemed like the only plausible choice to me because it was FDA approved. So there is some belief that it's effective. And so why wouldn't I do it? Yeah, that's why I did it.
Yeah. And so for those watching this, I'll just give some background that the Trident is a trial that Novocure, the company that created Optune or Tumor Treating Fields, is running. So Optune or Tumor Treating Fields is a treatment for high-grade glioma, which is a type of brain cancer. The way it works is that you wear external arrays on your head, and those arrays have electrical fields that will slow down the growth of tumor. And the way we think this happens is that it actually slows down the rate of mitosis or active tumor cell division. And so actively dividing cells will slow down, but this will not hopefully affect any healthy cells. And so far, as Janice mentioned, it's already been approved. And so all the research trials have already been done to show that it is safe and it is effective. And the initial data showed that it helped patients in terms of improving their survival significantly when they were diagnosed with glioma. And so it is approved, it's safe, it doesn't affect healthy brain tissue. But some of the questions I get asked, Janice, is, does it negatively impact quality of life? What has your experience been?
Yeah, well, first of all, maybe just to add what you just said, just in case people aren't super familiar, I would assume people who are watching this are, but so these are the arrays that you were talking about, which I have like all these Band-Aids. It's 4 Band-Aids. They're sitting on each side of my head, and then they all kind of run together in this wire, and that plugs into this machine. And then I usually cover up these arrays with my fancy head wrap. So I'm going to put that back on. Yeah, so in the beginning, I was honestly pretty.
Can you show me the wires from the back?
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, it's hard to see.
It's not that. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. So my husband did this. So they kind of come out there and then you kind of just braid them so you can do creative stuff with that. But yeah, so I, in the beginning, was pretty concerned about quality of life, mostly because I'm a very active person, and this is pretty heavy. And you have to be attached to this apparatus for the majority of the day for it to be effective. And so I was very concerned about that, as well as these, like, having the arrays sticking to my head every single day for, honestly, like every single day, the entire day, because you can't take them off every single day. So from a quality of life perspective, I had some doubts in the beginning. And again, mostly I think I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to do my normal activities with these restrictions. And like, I was worried about sleeping, even like, I used to have hair. Like, how do you sleep on your pillow if you have all of these wires coming out of the back of your head, essentially? And like, just running and walking and hanging out with my friends, like, I was concerned that I have to bring this everywhere. And just other things as well. Like, it's not a very romantic, cutesy feeling. I was worried that my husband maybe isn't going to be as attracted to me anymore with all of this. Like, I can't grow my hair back. Other people could. So I had a lot of concerns in the beginning. Happy to talk more about all of them.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about the hair. How did you manage or come to terms with that? Because you have to shave your head every couple of days.
Yes, I shave my head. You're supposed to change these arrays every like 3-ish days. I'm doing it more like every 5 to 6 days. So I'm shaving my head every 5 to 6 days. The company Novocure gives you a shaver that is pretty good for shaving your head. They just upgraded their blades. So that was exciting. But I found a good workaround. I'm actually using my own clippers to do like a pre-shave so that my hair is like pretty short already when I use the actual like Novocure shaver that they give you. When I first had to shave off all of my hair, I never had long hair, so I think that for me made it a little bit easier. Like, I was never attached to my hair to begin with, so that was easy-ish for me. But still, it was, all of a sudden you don't have hair anymore. I looked in the mirror and I was like, is this me? This is what my face looked like? Why did my ears stick out like this? So it took a while to get used to it, and I definitely cried about it for a few days. But I honestly think like after 2 weeks, maybe, I really got used to shaving my head. My husband and I also joked around a little bit, like, he gave me like a mohawk, and find out good ways to distract yourself. And then also all of my friends started giving me these amazing head wraps, and like with your hair, you can only do one thing every single day, or maybe you can like wear it up or down, but I get to wear a different color on my head every single day. So just trying to see the positive sides of it. So took some getting used to, but it didn't take too long for me, honestly.
Yeah. So what has been the hardest part, as you mentioned several different things like that you were considering when you first thought about it, and then you started wearing it, and as you've been wearing it, what has been the hardest part out of all of those you mentioned?
I mean, generally, I think the hardest part was the beginning. Just, it seems like such a big change. And honestly, in the first like 3 weeks, it was a very big change. And I really was on the verge of just saying no for a couple of times, because like the machine starts beeping at you. You have to be hooked up to it at night. Like, when I sleep, I have the cable box is like under my pillow. And so there's this hard thing there. And then it starts beeping again, and you don't know why it beeps. And it like gives me little electroshocks every once in a while. So all of this in the first couple of weeks, I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, is this even worth it? And like, I was doubtful, and definitely had several nervous breakdowns. So I think overall, like generally, that was the hardest part. And fortunately, I had some good support with my husband and my friends, and also like the company itself gives you a lot of good support resources. I have my device specialist, so she was really helpful, and I called her like once a week probably and asked her like, oh, do you have recommendations for the sun shining on my head? And so when the sun shines a lot, the arrays get like irritated, and so everything starts beeping. And I got really frustrated by it because I love being out in the sun, and I couldn't do that anymore without this thing stopping to work. And so I basically had to decide, do I want to be in the sun or do I want to try to save my life? And so it's all of those things that in the beginning was really hard for me, but you find workarounds for every single thing. So like for the sun, for example, I found that if I wear like a pretty solid like hat, like a base cap kind of hat, it blocks the sunlight so much that it actually doesn't beep anymore. And for sleeping, I just like moved around my pillow in a different place. Like, yeah, so I found out workarounds for like all of these like little things that seemed so dramatic in the beginning. And so now I think honestly, the biggest thing for me is, so this next weekend, for example, I have a big camping trip come up. And so like my friends are out camping for like a week in the, I mean, it's a Joshua Tree, so it's not the middle of nowhere, but there's no outlets. And so I already got additional batteries from the company. So I have 6 batteries. Each battery lasts about 6 hours-ish if you get lucky. So effectively, I will make it probably through like 2.5 days-ish, and then the machine turns off. And so it's again kind of the thing where it's like, do I want to do the thing that I want to do, or do I want to be on Optune and save my life, hopefully? So I think that continues to be my biggest struggle with this, but I think it's just those decisions that you have to make, and you just have to get creative with like, how many batteries am I bringing? Like, can I stretch it somehow through the day? Like, I'll be climbing there, so I'll just shut the machine off while I'm climbing, and then I'll turn it back on for an hour when I'm back. So yeah, I think it's still an impact, but you always find workarounds. There's nothing right now that to me is so impactful in a negative way that I would stop using it.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, there's so many follow-up questions that I have, so that's great. But I think that's I just want to highlight that you mentioned, several times that the decision that being asked of you is, do I want to continue wearing this? That's inconvenient. But also on the other side, you're weighing sort of your life and the fact that this is an aggressive tumor and this is one of the proven treatments. So that can be one I want to highlight that that's such a difficult choice. And I'm sorry that you're having to make that. But at the same time, you're choosing a balance, it sounds like, between the two, and you're just kind of taking it decision by decision. Is that right? Like sort of what you want to do, and you kind of decide, okay, is this what is worth more right now in terms of enjoying something versus varying it. So there's some flexibility you give yourself, it sounds like, for if you want to do something or travel or go somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. I think when you have cancer, like Optune isn't the only thing where you have to make those decisions. There's so many things, like we've talked about keto in the past. Like, do I want to give up pizza for, a potential longer life? I don't know. So I think that this is not the only scenario where I do make those decisions, but yeah, it's kind of like, if I want to do something, is it worth enough for me to be on Optune a little bit less? And the one thing I will say is, like, the company, in order to make it effective, you need to be on Optune for 75% of your day. And so the one thing I do make sure is that over the course of like a week, I'm always over 75%. I'm usually always over 85%. Because it's just, when I work, I have it on. When I sleep, I have it on. And that's already kind of the majority of the day. So it's very easy to meet those numbers, even if I go camping and I don't have it on for an entire day.
Yeah, and just wanted to highlight that what Janice just said is that it's 75%, so it's average of 16 to 18 hours a day. But a lot of our patients worry that they're going to wear it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So kind of finding that balance, that it's not, there are times where you can give yourself a break. Of course, that means that you're taking off the arrays. So usually, my recommendation is to, as when you're doing that change, give yourself the break then. But it can be, I guess, any time. And then going back to what you said earlier, I think is also important to highlight is that it sounds like the beginning period is hard, and it's going to be hard because you're adjusting to a lot. But then as time has gone by, you found more adjustments in coping, which is interesting. That's our theme this month for Brain Tumor Awareness Month is resilience through coping and self-care. But you found ways to build your resilience for the treatment.
Yeah, absolutely. To the point where, honestly, I have times where I'm like, am I even on it? Like, I don't realize anymore that something like it's normal. It's just become part of who I am, and I bring this thing. I have this backpack. Optune also, or NovoCure gives you a backpack, but I have my own little Patagonia backpack that I just like bring it. I'm so used to wearing a backpack everywhere I go these days, and it gives you extra space to stuff some things in. So, yeah, I think I've gotten very, very used to it. Yeah.
How do you integrate it into all the activities you mentioned, like going out climbing, hiking? One of the things you mentioned was making sure you have enough battery life, but what other adjustments do you have to make, especially because you're very active and doing a lot of things?
Yeah, it depends on what I do. So for hiking, I usually just bring it in a backpack, and hopefully it's not super sunny and it kind of makes it. For climbing, it's a different story because I can't really climb with my backpack, and I don't want to bring all this extra weight up the wall with me. So I usually unplug, like this is a very tactical tip, but like I unplug these cables from the cable box, and then I twirl them up in my little head wrap, and then I just put the head wrap above. And so then I'm fully detached, and like no wires are hanging out anywhere. They're just like everything is underneath my little wrap, and no one sees it. And I even do this like if I go to a fancy event, which I don't usually do, but like if I go to a nice wedding or something, like I wear a nice head wrap and I have my wires like underneath the head wrap too. Like it doesn't, like not even only for like physical activities like climbing. I do this when I like try to be fancy, or like, sometimes I don't want people to know that I have cancer. I mean, like, maybe I just want to hide it underneath a hat, and I could go on, but yeah. And then for running, I do the same. This is kind of my trick that I use for most things. And then like if I want to go, like I live by the beach, so if I want to go for a swim, then those are the days where I decide I'm going to change my arrays, and so I just take them off because there's no way to work around that really. If I take a shower, I leave it on because NovoCure gives you a really nice showering cap. So I do the same where I just twirl it up in like a bun, and then you just put the cap over it, and it works.
So basically swimming is the main thing that you have to plan out. You can't just be, I mean, you could, but you just have to take off your arrays in terms of planning out.
Yeah.
But for shower, there's a cap, and for bait, if you took a bath, you would just keep it up.
Yeah.
That's really great to know. And have you had any skin issues with it over the last year and a half?
Yeah, I keep having skin issues. Part of this is like my own fault, honestly, because I don't change the arrays as frequently as I should be doing it. So I don't let my skin breathe as much as it could breathe. So I do have like little red spots. I don't usually realize it until I actually change the arrays. Like it doesn't hurt or itch or anything. It just like a red spot. It's like a pressure spot from the electrodes. But then when I change it, I have some antibiotics and steroid like ointments, I guess, that I put on it, and that definitely helps. And we just realized this. My husband got really creative this past week. If the spot, like if I have a wound or like an open spot in an area where there is no electrode over it, we actually cut like a little hole into the tissue, or like, what is it called? Like the mesh, the Band-Aid, to just let the skin breathe, because technically the Band-Aid is just there to secure the array. So that was a new creative thing that we found out. So that's been helpful as well.
Yeah, and people have given me different ideas. We use like ointments like clobetasol, the antibiotic ointment, but sometimes people use aloe vera in between arrays, or we'll use coconut oil to help the arrays come out. So there's a lot of different tips, I think, online in different groups to manage that. But it sounds like so far it hasn't been uncomfortable in terms of the skin issues. Okay.
No, and there's other things like, so this took a learning curve for me as well. Like I take my arrays off underneath the shower if I have the option, because having water kind of between the array and your skin helps. It comes off so easily if you do that. And I think that also helps to protect your skin if you don't just like rip it off and instead kind of like help wash it off a little bit. It's much nicer on the skin, I think.
So they send you a number for each month, or how does that work in terms of arrays?
I usually call NovaPure. I call the Encompass team. They're super responsive and super friendly. I actually just called them today to just order additional arrays. If you don't call them up frequently enough, like if they suspect you might be missing something, they call you proactively. I think I might have put that as my preference. I don't think they have to call you. They may just like email you, but for me, I'm always like preferring people calling me. Yeah, and then you just tell them what you want. And it's not only the arrays, like they supply so many things that are useful in addition to the arrays. So the shaver I mentioned, they give you scissors, which actually I don't use their scissors. I use my own scissors. They're sharper. But they also give you little like additional, what do you call them? Like the strips to secure the arrays. Additionally, they also give you some additional like wipes so that you can wipe solution or things on your head. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that they supply. And they almost like throw their stuff at you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very nice. It's so easy, and it takes like 3 days for them to deliver, depending on how urgent it is. And yeah, it's a very nice process, I think, especially for, you know, a patient who is usually having to chase things down and like trying to keep, I don't know, up with like pharmacies and then healthcare companies. And yeah, I feel like
There's so much on your plate already. You don't.
yeah, exactly. Having a company who just like calls you and is like, hey, do you need to raise by any chance? And you're like, oh yeah. And if you can add a blade from a razor, and they're like, yeah, what else could you need? And yeah, they're awesome.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. You touched on this in the beginning, but you mentioned a little bit about how your husband might feel or how other people around you may kind of feel. How has that been in terms of the social, you know, kind of stigma of not just the hair loss, but wearing something on your head? Have you had weird experiences, and how has your husband coped with it?
I mean, I think he's been taking it like it's almost like a little his own personal challenge. So he helps me put on the arrays. I can do it by myself, but it takes more time and it's less reliable. It's a little difficult to do, but you can train to do it yourself. But he does it, and so every time he puts them on, he's like, this is a masterpiece. Like, look at this piece of art. So I think we're both, you know, trying to be lighthearted about it. I don't think it bugs him at all. Like, fortunately, he loves me for being myself, I guess. And yeah, it hasn't been an issue. It's been it hasn't been an issue anywhere, really. I mean, I think in the world that we live in today, like, fortunately, people don't really judge you as much, hopefully. I mean, if my friends were to judge me because of this, I would probably have to find new friends. But yeah, no, I think like my friends call it my robot, or like they call me like, oh, like your cyborg is beeping again, like things like that. So we all kind of have fun with it a little bit. And like my best friend just like yells at Optune if it beeps and is like, shut up, Optune. And yeah, it's I think we all try to take it lightly. The more like not invasive, but like interesting things that happen is when people ask me like, why are you wearing a head wrap? And it's like, well, it's not only that I don't have hair, it's like I'm not trying to hide this. I just, you know,
that's how you
think I'm prettier with the head wrap, and it's also kind of weird if all your band-aids are sticking out. So yeah, I had a couple of clients ask me like, what's on your head? But yeah, I think, you know, people are allowed to be curious, and yeah, I'm very open about it, as you can tell. So and I almost like explaining what it is. Like when I go climbing in the beginning, I still was carrying this around in the climbing gym, and people were asking me like, what is this? How does it work? Oh, and then like they get so intrigued and so excited that because it's a very new technology, like people don't know about it. So just like being able to tell people about this and also creating awareness for brain cancer on the side and like, answering questions like, oh, like, how does that feel for you? And how could I help you? And like, what can I do to help research in this area? Like, they're all good questions. So it's almost like a little badge that I get to carry around to make people ask me questions and for me to get to talk about my experiences more. Yeah.
So a conversation starter almost.
Yeah.
Talk about it. I mean, and you mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't want to, and then you just don't. Like it sounds like, but if you want to, it's an option. And I think that it really highlights your own resiliency, but also the coping as time goes on. That human beings have this amazing ability to cope and adjust to different things. I used to have a patient many years ago who was in her 80s, and she was wearing Optune, and she loved to go. She was in a small town in Arizona, so she loved to go into the post office and be like, "I'm from Mars."
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of, I think
also,
the likeness, yeah.
It's also interesting. Like every once in a while, I run into people who are also wearing Optune, like not even in like only in the waiting room of your office, but also like I was hiking and there was someone who's like, is this Optune? Oh, I used to be on Optune. And so yeah, it's like not that that's the point, but it's kind of nice to just talk to people who are in a similar situation. And I wouldn't have known otherwise because, fortunately you don't really see what situations people are in if you don't carry this robot around.
Yeah, I think that's true because one of the things with brain tumors and brain cancer is that it can be so internal. It's not visible externally. And a lot of our patients, fortunately, are living their lives, doing their things, but that has both the positive and a negative side, is that people don't recognize what they might be dealing with and coping with on a day-to-day. Yeah. And then what about sleep? How do you manage sleep, or is it? I'm sure in the beginning it was much harder, but how have you adjusted to that?
Yeah, I definitely have adjusted. Yeah, in the beginning it was weird because so I had to change my side of the bed. You know how we all have like, oh, the left side is my side. So the left side used to be my side, but then you need to be close to an outlet. And so we didn't have an outlet on the left side of the bed. So that was a curveball I didn't expect because it's hard to sleep on the other side of the bed.
It's a hard adjustment. Hotels, I don't.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the first impact that it had on my sleeping. And then, yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of weird. Like you suddenly have something attached to your head while you're sleeping. It's, when you want to just like roll over, sometimes you can't because the wires are pulling you back, or like, I don't know if my husband wants to hug me like in the morning or so, and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm tangled, I can't move. So yeah, it's in the beginning it was frustrating. And it's also, I'm still the one thing that still annoys me is when you've already like gotten into bed and you're ready to go to sleep, and I've plugged an Optune into the night thing, and then I'm like, oh, I really want some water now. And then you have to untwirl everything, unplug everything, like carry your machine into the kitchen and grab a glass of water. So that's the only thing where it's still to this day, I'm like, I just need to really be good at reminding to bring my water to my bed. Otherwise, my husband has to get it for me. But yeah, I think otherwise, the one thing that definitely also has an impact on my sleep schedule is like Optune does have a side effect of making you more fatigued. And I do experience that a lot. And I think part of it is just because it's warm and it's on your head. And so I do realize that when I took the arrays off and it's like colder, like there's more energy. And then especially when I put it on before bed, it kind of like almost puts me to sleep because it's like this nice, warm, cozy feeling around my head. But then in the morning when it's time to get up, it does make it harder to get up, especially also because you're strapped into bed basically. So I find it a little bit harder to make it out of bed with Optune.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the experience is, but it's also, I imagine the fact that something's buzzing through your head all day, it's probably contributes to fatigue, but
Yeah, I mean, you don't feel it unless something's wrong. Like sometimes one of the arrays kind of goes off, or like, I don't know, like I had a electrode that was kind of broken for whatever reason. I think I accidentally stabbed it with my sun protector. So that may have been on me. But like you usually don't feel anything. Sometimes there's like this pulsing sensation, but yeah, usually you don't feel anything. It's just like a little bit warm.
yeah.
Yeah, so usually like when I'm lying there, it's just the warmth, I think, also contributes to, like, I sleep hotter than I used to. My husband and I used to joke that like he sleeps warm, I sleep cold, and so I'm like, oh, turn on the heat, and he's like, no, open the window. But now it's like almost the reverse, where I sleep way warmer because my head is warmer. And I know other people struggle with this a little bit, where they have to get like cooling pillows
Yeah,
because Optune heats up. I fortunately, I guess my body temperature itself still is like generally cold. So yeah, I don't have that problem yet. I only have it during the day when I'm outside in the sun.
Mhm. Great. Well, thank you so much for telling us all these like insider experience. I just wanted to hear from someone who actually living with it. And it sounds like you really have found so many different ways to cope and to build your strength around it so that it's doing what it needs to do for you. And could you talk a little bit about everything that you're doing? Because you're still working, is that right? And you're
Yep.
living independently, so you're living a full life.
Yeah, I'm doing all the things. I get up in the morning, I walk the dog that we're currently dog sitting, several miles. I then go to work, have all my meetings, do my slides. I work in consulting, so it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Then I usually go outside, I go on a walk, I go climbing or hiking or hang out with my friends. Yeah, and then I have a normal evening, eat some dinner, watch a show with my husband, and yeah, I travel a bunch. My family lives in Germany, so oh, this is another impact. Like, yeah, I used to travel every single week for work. Now I almost don't like having to get on planes anymore. I used to really, really enjoy it, but getting all of this and like the whole Optune equipment through security, it is a lot more work than it used to be. And I used to be very proud of like how effective I would manage security and like the TSA check. And now it's like I'm the slowest person in the line always. And it's a lot of work. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, once I'm on the plane, I'm fine. And I still travel a lot, and yeah, I'm basically the same person, except that, I talk about Optune now.
You take a letter or something with you when you're going to TSA? How do you work that out? Okay.
Yeah, they never have asked for it yet. So I think I haven't, I actually don't know where my letter is. But yeah, NovoCure does give you a letter that explains that it's a medical device and you're supposed to have it, and kind of like outlines the equipment that it comes with. And yeah, no one has ever asked me any questions. And yeah, I usually have all the Optune equipment in my carry-on bag, and so I just unload all the different devices into the tray, including all the batteries. I usually have it like packaged into packing cubes so that it doesn't fully fall apart. I also take like spare arrays for like even more than I'm supposed to be taking, like just in case something goes wrong, or like I want to go for a swim. Yeah, and then I go through where you have to do this, whatever it's called, the little machine. And they usually don't know what to do with it. So I just tell them like, this is a medical device. And then they just have you hold up the cables and swipe around. And yeah, usually it's not very complicated. It's just then I get stressed when I have to pop all the different things back into my bag. But it helps to have an additional person to travel with. It definitely speeds things up.
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. I mean, thank you so much for sharing so much. I think this will be helpful, honest experience. Both you've really discussed both the good and the bad, your reasons for doing it, and And I'm so glad that so far it's been working for you, and we're thrilled that we get to take care of you because you're an incredible, inspiring, and resilient person. So thank you, Janice.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And if I can just maybe share one last word, I guess, it's I would just encourage people to try it, because if you try it for a month and then after the month you're like, no, this just truly is not for me. I think that's everybody's right. You can make your own decisions, and if that's a decision you want to make, that's fine. But I think so many people get discouraged because it does sound like a lot, and I really had my doubts about it in the beginning, but I got used to it so fast, and I think if I can do it, everybody else can do it. So I think just try it and see where it gets you, and see if you can endure it. And
very powerful, because it is approved, it's shown the evidence, it's not invasive, it doesn't have a lot of the side effects that other treatments do. But you're right, people get pretty overwhelmed when they first see it and they imagine it. And so I think that that's very powerful coming from you, that just try it, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and your hair will grow back, and you can just turn back in all the device. And so it is insurance approved, and so there's not a lot of loss there either. So I do think that it's worth trialing, especially with I think it's in the future there'll just be more data coming out, because now it's even been approved for other cancers. So well, thank you so much with us for Brain Tumor Awareness Month. And I just want to mention for people who are looking at this, we're doing a number of different activities for Brain Tumor Awareness Month 2023. And we will continue to have those updated on our website, pacificneuro.org. Thank you for watching.